to sit in on our executive session?
They can't till November.
Okay. It's 6 p.m. on September 20th, 2022. I call to order the Coney County Council meeting. As a reminder, the public has 2 times that they can speak in council meeting. The first is public comments, and the second is public hearing, when scheduled. Other than those 2 times, the public should remain silent during the council meeting. Anyone making a disturbance during the meeting will be asked to leave council chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, please ensure that you follow the county's legal prohibition against engaging in partisan political activity, including speech, during this meeting. This meeting is not called for that activity, and such activity is prohibited by law. Moment of silence, please. Mr. Drew?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, dear Father, thank you for bringing us here together, for this day that you've made and this opportunity you've given us to do good work for this county. And I pray that it would be good work consistent with your will and your good pleasure, that you would give us, staff and council, wisdom to see things that we might not otherwise see, that insight that only you can bring, so that this meeting, the work that we do here, will not only be wise now and effective now, but down the road. I pray that this prayer is in your name and that we act in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Hart, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the September 6, 2022 special council meeting minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Is there a motion to approve the September 6, 2022 council and County Joint Regional Sewer Authority joint meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Is there a motion to approve the September 6, 2022 regular minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Is there a motion to approve the September 13th, 2022 millage workshop minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I have a number of items to address, if you'll bear with me. The first, as I emailed council earlier today and has now been included in the backup, we need a motion to amend the agenda because we received a grant agreement related to Project CAISO. So the motion would be thus. Need a motion to amend the agenda to add the following as an action item, so following the final ordinance reading. To authorize the county administrator to execute and deliver the Project CAISO grant agreement. It's now in the backup and provided earlier to council. The performance agreement upon receipt and any related documents, all in order to foster a grant from the state of South Carolina of approximately $200,000 to Project CAISO, CURTEC, for site improvement costs. The exigency requiring that we amend the agenda right now is that there's a deadline to submit the signed grant agreement, so we have to get it in ASAP. So if I could have that motion first, that would be great.
So moved. Second.
Is this a motion to put it on the agenda, or is this a motion to do the whole thing?
To put it on the agenda.
Put it on
Yes,
the
sir.
agenda.
To amend the agenda.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item relates to ordinance 2022-22. This ordinance deals with adding provision to Chapter 32 of the Oconee County Code that would require DOT pre-approval for subdivision plans relating to property adjacent to Highway 123 between the Seneca municipal boundary and the Oconee-Pickens border. I just wanted to note that if it passes first reading tonight, it will go to Planning Commission pursuant to the Oconee County Code of Ordinances for a public hearing and their report. Then it would come back. That's a 30-day notice of hearing requirement, so it'll be if it does pass first reading, because the planning commission will be a while till it comes back for second reading. No motion is needed for that. It's written into the ordinance that happens. Just bring it to council's attention. Second item relates to ordinance 2022-23. This is an ordinance relating to the allowance of sidewalks within county right-of-ways. I just wanted to note that I'm working with Ben Olson of the Department of Transportation and Kyle Reed with our Roads and Bridges Department to ensure that I've got good language that references the DOT standards. It's pretty broad language that we have in there now, referencing the standards and ensuring that any sidewalks are built consistent with those standards. But Mr. Olson, being someone who's an expert in that, I want to make sure that I've got language that he thinks is good. So we had a meeting scheduled, it got canceled. Hopefully we'll have it scheduled soon. There could be a delay if I have a problem setting that in second reading, so just a note. Also, as to ordinance 2022-24, and this relates to proposed amendments to the lot size and density provisions in a portion of the lake overlay. Also by the Oconee County Code of Ordinances, it's required that that go to the Planning Commission prior to third reading for a report and recommendation. And that's consistent with Chapter 38. No motion is needed at this time. When you have the reading on the ordinance, you can make appropriate motions then, but it is also carried within the body of the ordinance. And I would also note, if that does pass, by the time we get to the public hearing, we'll have mailings that go out to the residents that would affect. I will also recommend that we do some sort of posting on the thoroughfares. It's not a small area rezoning that would require it by law, but I think it's a good idea. We had this discussion, I don't know how long ago it was, about some design standards, and if we can do it, the more notice, the better. But I'll bring that back up when it comes to the appropriate time. And that's it. That's all I have.
Ms. Brock?
I think Mr. Root said everything that needed to be said this evening, sir.
Okay. Millage presentation to council, Mrs. Christie Hubbard.
Good evening, how are you? I'm going to start with, I'm just going to quickly go through this because we had the workshop last week. So on the first slide, what it shows is the actual breakdown of the assessments for the millage this year. This is what compromises the total assessed value. As you can see on the next slide, the total assessed value for county operations is $602,892,445. That is $16,288 more than the value of the mill last year. For school operations, we've got $448,510,185, and that is an increase of $25,701 per per school operational mill. And for school bonds, $650,510,185, and that's an increase of $27,701 per value of a mill for school operations. For Oconee County, the dollar amount to be set on millage this year is $36,731, $36,731,514. For the school, it is $50,062,676. In order to fund these, that is what is basically divided by the value of the mill. For debt service, the county's got a little over $1.4 million, and for the school bonds, $18.2 million. These numbers have not changed for the approved budget for what I recommend for millage this year. For county operations and Tri-County Tech, 74.3, school operations, 111.6, county bonds, 2 mills, and school bonds, 30. That's the total millage of 217.9, which is a decrease of 8.1 mills from last year. The next slide just basically shows the millage breakdown. And as of right now, the cities and the Kiwi Fire all are the same from the previous year. West Union has not certified a number to me. They are supposed to be voting on it tonight and send a letter to me. If anything changes, I will report back.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this gonna be a tax increase? I mean, let's say you got a $100,000 house, will you pay more taxes this year?
If you have a $100,000 house that was valued at $100,000 last year, and if you have a $100,000 house that is valued at $100,000 this year, no. However, we do know that this is the year of reassessment. So if you had a $100,000 house last year and it increased 5%, it will slightly go up, yes.
Well, it seemed like to me, I remember someone saying that if we had that, it wouldn't be a tax increase, no matter what that happened.
Mr. Hart, I believe, Ms. Hubbard, correct me if I'm wrong, but overall, the amount of taxes will not be going up. It's this balancing act between valuations.
If you had a $100,000 house in 2021 tax year, and if you have a $100,000 house in 2022 tax year, the taxes would be less. However, if you lived in a $100,000 house last year, and due to reassessment, the value of your home increases, the taxes could increase, yes. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
The vote is 3-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proclamation 2022-16. The proclamation recognizing the United States Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to award official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary, and to patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuance of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and for all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote is
Will Ms. Norfield come up and
Thank you so much. Thank you for recognizing the importance of our Constitution.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we have a photograph. Where should I stand? Should I stand at the pit? Okay.
You're first.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, ready, 1, 2, 3. That's good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, excuse me, public comment session. As a reminder, each person has 4 minutes to speak. When 3 minutes is up, I'll have a 1-minute sign showing, and when you're out of time, I'll have a red sign showing. Let's see here. Brandon Massey.
So the purpose of me coming up here is just basically say thank you for your service, and I appreciate you guys and appreciate the opportunity to be here, so thank you, council. The purpose of what we want to talk about is December 6th of 2020, I acquired the property at Cornerstone Lighthouse Church, right on 123, just before you get to popular what's that, Poplar
Springs.
Poplar Springs Road, thank you. I acquired that property, and our desire is to create transitional housing and to do veteran housing and other shelters and other housings on that property. But in the meantime, we went ahead and purchased another property, which is the old Mays Clinic in Fairplay. And our desire there is to put a transitional house, and in the transitional house, to create a training center, to do some workforce development, to do business training, business leadership, office spaces for entrepreneurship, and house 7 to 9 men in that property with a leadership development program. It's for them to live there for probably 8 months or so as a program. And this program is designed for people coming out of the ORS program or Cross Central Ministries or some of the other programs in the county, or Home with the Heart, those type programs. They've come from there, but there's a huge need. From Ashley Williams has said that there's a huge need, and everybody we talk to, there's a huge need for the next stage to keep people to be successful and to not going back into their old ways. So as a community, creating a community development will raise men and raise leaders through that process. And so our first stage of that is going ahead and starting that at the old Mays Clinic in Fairplay. Purchasing that from Tim Mays and his family there. In the meantime, we're also starting a women's home, a women's shelter, transitional housing in Seneca, where we purchased another piece of property as well. And Charity will be talking about that. But the main goal of this one is to create a training center, videos, so we can start mentoring men into the next stage of success and next stage of life. Currently, the Band of Brothers Prison Ministry out of Greenville, we house about 40 men, and I've been on their board for about 5 years. And we house right now about 40 men and have a very good success rate there. And our desire has been to bring this to Oconee County for several years. And now's the time that we actually have the means, the desire, the staff, and the leadership to bring that to Oconee County. In this process, I've talked to Sheriff Crenshaw, and he's been around and been connected. He's the one that's advised us to come up here and share with you guys what our desire is and what our goals are. And so with that, we would like to know what's the next step for funding and any ideas, if any connections that you guys can connect us with. We'd love to have the opportunity to connect with more people in the future. So, thank you.
And I apologize in advance about your last name, but,
It's Como.
okay, Cassidy,
Charity.
Charity. Again, say your name.
Charity Como.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me here. So I've lived in West Union since 2005, raised 4 kids through Walhalla, married. I do street ministry, I do jail ministry at the Oconee County Sheriff's Office with the ladies, and I do feeding ministry with Patsy Davis. So with Brandon and everybody, we've purchased a home and we're gonna open up a women's home. There's a great need for it, and so we're just trying to come out and introduce ourselves and just kind of say, hey, this is what we're after, and we're gonna do the women's with the goal of just life change, pulling people out of their situation to put community around them, programs, training, financial education, just all the things they need to get back. But I guess the most important part is that you're there to like commit to them and walk with them through it all. So that's what we're gonna do. It's kingdom over culture, and we're just excited about finally getting the opportunity to serve the need, because it's, you can really see it when you're out there in the community kind of among it all. So that's it. Thanks for listening to me.
Excuse me, Ms. Knapp?
Thank you. I have 3 issues I'd like to address this evening. The first one is the property reassessment and taxes. I'm actually a little confused about what just happened, because I thought we had been told that our taxes were likely to go down. And after the example we were just given, it sounds like they're going to go up. I went to the workshop last Tuesday, and you all lowered the millage rate. The question is the millage rate lowered enough that our taxes won't go up? It seems like a fair evaluation. You also talked about the appeal process. Okay, the only problem with the appeal process is I can appeal how much my house is worth, but I can't appeal the millage rate. And the millage rate is what sets our taxes. So that's my first concern. Second is the growth in Oconee County. We hear that there are something like 20 to 30 developments coming, correct? And I agree with Mr. Kane. I am not concerned about the small neighborhoods, 4 to 5 houses, or the neighborhoods up in the cliffs, low density. The issue is the high density, large neighborhoods. Right now, I would say the biggest problems we have in Oconee County, roads, sewers. Okay, so all of these neighborhoods come, those problems are going to get worse. I think we all can agree on that. No one has even mentioned what this building is going to do to our schools. Also, has anyone considered impact fees? Yes, impact fees are paid for by developers for the impact that they have on our infrastructure and our schools. Yes, they're fees. A lot of people don't like to talk about fees. They don't like to talk about taxes. However, it seems that the developers should be responsible for the growth that they bring. It shouldn't be put on old and new taxpayers. It seems like there's a lot of arguing in the Planning Commission about what to do. Yes, people have the right to sell to developers, but if they strip the land, put in 200 homes, take the money, leave with the profits, what are we left with? As elected representatives, what is your part in this? You hire staff. You appoint planning commissioners. You set policy. Ultimately, as elected officials, I feel like the buck stops right here. What's the plan? My third thing that I'd like to discuss is at the August 16th meeting, Mr. Elliott nominated a Mrs. Spicer for the Planning Commission. I read that you nominated her because you thought that she was a good researcher. I have 2 questions for you, Mr. Elliott. When was the public informed that there was an opening on the Planning Commission? Other people may have wanted to apply. It was not in the agenda. Secondly, what research qualifies Mrs. Spicer to be on the Planning Commission? Thank you.
Council member comments.
Mr. Chair, I notice we have Mr. Don Mize out there, and he is prepared to go to the executive session if we so move that he can attend.
It'll be in November. That's what everybody, after the election in November, they're able to come in. We were.
We've done it before the election, but we couldn't do it tonight because we got to get him assigned. Mr. Root would have to do a non-disclosure agreement since he's not on council yet.
Well, I suggest we go ahead and get him situated to where he can start attending and see what's happening.
Sure. Is that a motion or?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we get his paperwork and documentation to where he can, maybe the next meeting or so, he'll be able to attend.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, and just to confirm, I thought it was not until, like Mr. Davis just said, until after the election, but it is after the primary?
Mr. Brewer and I attended together.
Okay.
Before the final.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
that sounds
Mr.
good to me.
Chairman, yeah, there's no hard and fast rule, but I think that was the occasion that we had those come in before the general election. And Mr. Brule came in. Mr. Mize could just get with me and we'll do a non-disclosure agreement and get that set up. And y'all can address having a meeting for executive session if we have one next meeting.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Any other council member comments?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Mr. Massey and Ms. Como for their efforts in providing, the services that they're bringing to the county. That is, as I think all of us are aware, much needed. And, a lot of times people look to the government to fix societal issues, and I'm glad that y'all have taken that upon yourselves. And thank you for doing that, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is getting involved in the community and not looking to government to fix every problem we have out here. So thank y'all.
Any other comments? If not, let's see, the next item, Chris Wilson was unable to attend tonight, so we'll skip that agenda item. Public hearing for the following ordinance, ordinance 2022-21, an ordinance to supplement ordinance 2021-14, which appropriated and authorized the expenditure of $2 million of local coronavirus fiscal recovery funding received by Coney County under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, the RPA, for purposes of the Salem Water Infrastructure Project, by appropriating and authorizing the expenditure of an additional $550,000 for the project. So the total appropriation and expenditure authorization for the project will now total $2,550,000 and other matters related thereto. No one has signed up for public hearing 2022-21. I close public hearing 2022-21. First reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2022-22. An ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Coney County Court of Ordinances in certain limited regards and particulars only by adding provision providing for pre-approval by the South Carolina Department of Transportation in relation to subdivision plans submitted for preliminary approval to Oconee County for properties with road frontage on U.S. Highway 123 between the Oconee County-Pickens County border and the easternmost boundary of the city of Seneca and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir. Let's say this fails. What is happening? This is a duplication of what's there. I called the highway department today and asked them about this, and they said that you were going to have to send anything that has to do with commercial, which would be a subdivision, to Greenville to get it approved. And whatever we do now is not going to have any effect on that I can see outside of maybe somebody will say, oh, well, it was approved by the highway department. But if you apply for a drive now and it happens to be commercial, I know that I have done 3 topographic maps showing the drainage and the traffic and the center line and the utilities all on this so that they could get this. And they've been doing this before anybody ever come up with this idea. And I think this is just a duplication and a waste of time.
Mr. Root, so you've been talking with the DOT, I think it's in.
Trying to arrange the meeting with the DOT, Mr. Olson, and we'll talk about this and the sidewalk provisions. This ordinance came from the Planning Commission. They did speak with Mr. Olson. He likes the idea that the difference, I think, with the way it's handled now is once it's submitted to the Planning Department, they work on the approval process, then they get the DOT approval. This gives the DOT a chance to speak to the issue before the subdivision is in process here with the county. And I think that was the notion that why the Planning Commission did it, why they recommended it, and why you have it.
That help us start?
Yeah, but it's still a duplication of what's going on right now.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. Based on what my understanding is from the DOT was just trying to clear up some issues, so adding in that step clears up the issue for both parties, and to me, that was, I don't disagree that there's a little bit of duplication on it, but based on the discussions that I've heard at the planning commission meeting and those conversations, that is kind of requested from both sides, DOT and us. So it's really, to me, just a simplified process, and I agree with you, it is like, hey, we've looked at this together, but it seems to be requested from both parties, so. But there is some duplication, I do agree with you on that. But is it make it simpler? Maybe.
Mr. Chairman, if it does make it simpler, I'll be go along with it, because it may, our planning department, it may be that they would approve a plat for a subdivision and then it get canceled, and they would have that time invested in doing the research on the plat to discover that it couldn't be approved. So again, I'll agree with that.
That's what I understand it to be. But there is duplication, 100%.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that will be referred down back to the planning commission as stated.
Yes, sir, it'll go to planning commission now. It's written within the ordinance, so it didn't require a second or a special motion, but yes.
So expectations of a second reading would probably be November, December, January, so it gives us some additional times to understand. Is that what we're probably
Yeah,
guessing?
They have a 30-day notice window, so it's longer than usual. So planning commission will get it, they'll give 30 days notice and then have the public hearing on that, then issue their report from it, so probably a November meeting.
Yeah, I had some extra questions to ask as we move forward. I just want to make at that time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Ordinance 2022-23, an ordinance amending chapter 26 of the County Code of Ordinances, in certain limited regards and particulars only, to allow for construction of sidewalks in county right-of-ways and other matters related thereto. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Would this one have a possibility of being referred to planning as well because of the amendment, or
It's not, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
or can we, if it is approved, can we part of that motion amend this to send to planning?
You can. This one did come directly from planning commission, so yeah, they were the authors of it.
Right.
They asked me to come to speak to it, and I had some, just tweak the language a little bit.
Okay.
And they like that language, so this is, essentially exactly as they voted to approve it. The only changes might be between now and second reading, as I discussed. I want to talk to Ben Olson about any specifics in relation to references on their design standards, DOT design standards, and their particular drawings they have for the sidewalks to make sure those are clear. So, that was it.
My issue for bringing that up is the communication and watching the meeting between what that statement was there. But as we move forward, I think we can get some clarity on that from a council standpoint. But I just felt like that discussion wasn't necessarily clear coming out of planning, and the vote, what was the vote on that coming out of planning?
It was close vote. I want to say it's 4-3 if everyone was there. I remember it being a close vote.
Yeah.
And if it would, and I would certainly recommend sending it back if I do talk to Ben Olson. He's like, no, let's make the references to the DOT standards specific in this way or tweak it this way, then, and I come back with recommended amendments to you all. I think it'd be good practice to send it back to planning commission to get their thoughts.
I think there were some valid concerns that came from I couldn't remember if it was 2 or 3, but I did understand some of those concerns. So as we move forward, that may be, as we work through this, we could send it back after second if we so choose.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Ordinance 2022-24, an ordinance amending chapter 38 of the County Code of Ordinances in certain limited regards and particulars only, by revising the lot size and density standards applicable to the Lake Overlay District and other matters related thereto. I make a motion that we remove this from the agenda and send it down to the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation back to council after their next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
That's 4-0.
Ordinance 2022-25, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and Julie Abraham as lessee for certain office space located at the Oconee County Regional Airport, 365 Airport Road, Seneca, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, what is that office space used for?
Mr. Brock, can you help us with this?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hart, if I may, Ms. Abrams is a employee of Clemson and utilizes the office space for an off-campus office space. It's, I think, 10 or 11 by 14, one window. It's not a luxurious office, if that's acceptable to say. Ms. Abrams is employed by Clemson University, and to my understanding, just uses it as a quiet space that is very nearby the university, but is still off campus.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it makes any difference, but this is a renewal essentially of a prior lease. She's been there for 3 years.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
That is 4-0.
Let's see, Mr. Root, so is this where we want to do
Yes,
a
sir.
motion on Project Queso? Can you read it again?
I'll restate it. So, motion to authorize the county administrator to execute and deliver the Project Queso grant agreement and the performance agreement upon receipt. The performance agreement tracks with the grant agreement. And any related documents, all in order to foster a grant from the state of South Carolina of $200,000 to Project Queso, which is CURTAG, for site improvement costs. So that's the motion. I'm not going to address the cost issue.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
That is 4-0.
Let's see, I'm going to remove the discussion regarding action item. Board and commission appointments, Agricultural Advisory Board, there's one questionnaire on file for this seat. Do we have that in front of us?
It's finalized.
Oh,
It's all back up.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
It was.
Is there any way that you could pull it up? No.
And I don't want it to show.
Questionnaire, it's got personal
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I have a copy if we needed it.
You have a paper copy?
Glenn's got a copy of
Mr.
it.
Hart's got it.
Okay, so this is Christopher Robert Hockey,
I believe it's
Tally. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Tally to this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I got a question on that. According to his address, he lives in Pickens.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. So this is the ex officio position that has been held by the Clemson Extension Agent, so it's a non-voting member within the ordinance. Don't have to be county residents, they just give advice.
That was the only question that I had when I saw it.
Is there a motion to appoint him?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Arts and Historical Commission, one at-large seat, no questionnaires on file for this seat. Conservation Bank Board, District 4 seat, no questionnaires on file for this seat. One at-large seat, no questionnaires on file for this seat.
I do want to make sure, I think I do, I have a District 4 questionnaire coming in on the next one. Need to try to get that at large seat. We run a risk when we have 2 open seats of not having a quorum for that Conservation Bank Board. So we can make sure that comes out there. Those asking about where these come from, most of the time they're in here unless there is a resignation and a seat, which we do have, other boards that have 4 or 5 questionnaires on file. And we, sometimes like library board, there'll be 5 or 6 additional ones on file, so I'll make sure to work on that on the next one, so.
Okay, council will go into executive session for the following purposes. 1, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Bamboo. 2, receive legal advice and discuss potential contractual matter related to land adjacent to the Coney County Rock Quarry. And 3, discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Badge. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion with
Second.
adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's votes for 4-0, Mr. Chairman.